I haven't said this in a minute, but the last time I went home, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was there for a month, something I didn't think I'd ever really do again, but I needed it deeply. And that trip did something for me. It was good for my mind, my body, and my spirit in a way that I didn't even realize I needed. There is a peace that hits you when you go home to where you're from. A stillness, really, a quiet reminder that you don't have to always be in motion to be moving forward. The air at home felt familiar. The food had extra love in it. The pace forced me to breathe and not rush. And for a moment, I remembered a version of myself that I hadn't seen in a while, the slower and more grounded me. Now, don't get me wrong, there were definitely moments when my family got on my everlasting nerve. But even in those moments, I enjoyed the fact that I had family to get on my nerves. Because being home reminds me that you got to take the good with the bad. And what I learned was going back home isn't about going backwards. Sometimes it's about returning to the place that built you so you can remember who you were before the world told you who to be.
Powerful. Few things are as powerful. Few things are as powerful.
What's up, beautiful people, and welcome back to another Pep Talk Wednesday. I am Tyra, the creative, your host and virtual cheerleader for the day, delivering a midweek pick-me-up that you have been craving. So get ready for some encouraging words and a dose of inspiration to brighten your day. I want to start by saying, lately, life has been a little too loud for me. I have tons of thoughts going through my head and my timeline that I built constantly getting left in the dust. And all of the thoughts of what if are really starting to set in. So for my mental health, like I've been telling my friends, this past summer, I decided to take a trip home to have an extended stay. It was all about reconnecting with where I came from, who raised me, and the version of me that existed before life started to get really loud. So that's what we're going to dive in today. Ready? Okay. Now, it could be because I'm from Louisiana and it's already a slower pace of life, but when I go home, life forces me to slow all the way down. And that is not a bad thing. It's to the point where I try to get some work done and the internet constantly goes out, or a family member stopped by the house. And I appreciated that this go round because that was the exact reason that I wanted to go home, to disconnect and to recharge. And I also realized how blessed I truly am because I have essentially one place to go to see 99% of my family. And not many people can say that. When I was home in September of this year, a lot of my friends were saying, based on my stories that I posted on Instagram, they were like, dang girl, you moving back to Louisiana? It looked like you having too much fun. And I was like, no, I'm not moving back to Louisiana, but being home for an extended stay filled every cup that had been craving familial closeness. And I think a big part of that for me is living in LA. And we've talked about this before, the hustle culture of it all. Hustle culture makes us think that rest equals weakness, but slowing down is how you regulate, how you reset, and how you realign yourself with what is truly important in your life. I think returning home for an extended stay, I felt a lot less urgency and I was able to be way more present. And sometimes I fight with the idea that going home means that I am, and this is the best way I can put it, but wasting time. I moved out to LA to accomplish a goal, but I'm spending a month at home. And this season of my life, I am trying to unlearn that thought process, because if I need to go home and sit up in my mama house and let her love upon me, then I need to go and do that. Because I was thinking about this today, actually. I need to spend as much time at home as I can that does not hinder my success, right? And I need to do that because, like I said, I am blessed. I still have one great grandma in my life. I still have all of my grandparents. I still have my mama and my daddy and my brother and all of these great uncles, great aunties, all of my closest, like my mama's and daddy's siblings. Everybody is still there. And my grandmothers and my papa's siblings, all of them are still there. It's not going to always be like that. And I think living in America, for one, and living in this, living in this society where it's like work hard every single day because you have to work for everything that you have, and things are getting more and more expensive by the day, and food is becoming a political tool. Like it's hard. And going home allows me to reset completely and regulate myself in a way that being in California, being away from home, doesn't always do for me. I think if you're in a situation where you live far away from home and you're like, yeah, girl, I don't go home often because I got stuff to do, take a second to think and really remember, okay, or not remember, but take inventory of what's going on in your life. Are you feeling some emptiness in some areas of your life? Could that possibly just be that you haven't been home in a while? Could that be that you need to immerse yourself into something that is familiar, something that is from your childhood? And if you don't have time to go home, or if you live like in another country or whatever the case may be, if you're like, I just can't really do that right now, there are some actionable steps that you can take to help put you back in those modes where you can recharge. So take one moment a day to stop rushing, eat slowly, sit outside, take a walk without your phone. Even small things like that can help you slow down and be present in the moment. And the biggest thing that I want you guys to take from this is that sometimes peace is not something that you chase. It's not something that you do, but it's something that you return to. Being home brings up memories and values and culture that shaped you. And I know it can also bring up a lot of not so good things too. I know that. But every hometown has its beauty and its bruises. But there's something sacred about pausing long enough to see both, to honor the good while also acknowledging that you've had to grow through something. Sometimes peace can look like, especially for me, it can look like a porch conversation and that cousin who still laughs the exact same way. Sometimes it looks like flipping through old photo albums or driving past the corner store that knew your order before you came in the door. And sometimes clarity comes when you sit still long enough to hear your own heart again without all the noise of who the world expects you to be. For me, it's family stories, familiar routines like riding to the grocery store with my mama on the back roads. It's sitting on the porch and hearing the sounds of the cicadas in the evenings, or the horns honking as I'm sitting on the porch in the evening when everybody is on their way home from work and they just waving to say, hey, how you doing? Home has a way of whispering, do not forget who you are. Remember who you are. Just like, in Lion King, how Mufasa is saying that. For me, reconnecting with my family and revisiting my Southern roots and soaking in that slow-paced community wasn't just nostalgic. this go round, it was very restorative. It grounded me. It helped quiet my mind, y'all. My mind has been so loud lately, and it reminded me why connection matters. It reminded me why my roots matter and why simply being present matters. I remember I was sitting on my mama's back porch one day, and I was like, let me take these shoes off and go run through the grass. And I was like, when I was doing that, I was like, okay, so why am I in LA again? I don't spend a lot of time around grass. I don't have a yard. I live in a little bitty apartment that costs a pretty penny every single month. I think being home for me, or any place, and by home for me, it's actually my home, right? But being home, that place that you view as home, being there reminds you of what is important. Being around places, people, and routines that you grew up with, they trigger a sense of safety and comfort. And it reduces the stress of the constant doing because your nervous system finally gets to relax in a familiar space. It reconnects you to your identity and your values and your culture, reminding you that it reminds you of who you are at your core. And it also brings an emotional reset through those memories, the family stories, sensory triggers like smells and sounds or foods from home. That makes your spirit feel nourished. And the slower pace, y'all, that is one of the main reasons why I like to go home when I know I need to sit my ass down. Hometowns often operate at a slower rhythm than your everyday grind. So walking the familiar streets, sitting in quiet spaces that you're used to, or sharing an unhurried conversation gives your body and brain time to rest and remember those moments so long ago when you sat in those same spots, bored or wishing to be elsewhere. That pace lets your body and your mind reflect and recharge. And being around people who you know deeply and accept you without explanation reminds you that you're supported. That sense of safety and belonging recharges your emotional energy and gives you space to just be in whatever way that looks like. I love going home because I don't have to be on. As an actress and as a podcaster, as a content creator, your girl is always on. I don't have to force a conversation or pretend to be extra pleasant when I'm at home. I can just sit in my grandma's house while she cooking, exist in her space, and let myself relax. Let my shoulders drop. And it's not about being rude. It's about being in a place where you don't have to put any effort in, where you can simply breathe and be yourself. And I always say this. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And sometimes that cup needs to be refilled by returning to the people, places, and rhythms that once made up your entire world before you moved away, before you went to accept that job. So something that I am trying to get into my thick skull is that going home is not going backwards. It's going back to where your foundation was first poured. As you guys know, every episode has a challenge of the week. So this week's challenge is to do one thing this week that reconnects you with your roots. If you live away from home, it can be a lot of different things. You can call a family member and ask them a story about you. You could cook or eat a childhood meal. For me, last week, y'all, I made red beans and rice with cornbread, and I loved every last bite of that entire pot, okay? It can also be visiting a place that reminds you of who you are. Or you can even create a playlist of songs from home. Now, y'all know I'm from Louisiana, right? So I literally have a playlist that I titled Louisiana Bops. And it's filled with Boosie, Kevin Gates, Webby, Magnolia Shorty, and all of the other Louisiana artists that I love. There's actually a new song on there because I went home and this song was playing a lot. It go, it's just something about that sound. Okay, let me stop. Let me let me calm down. But creating that playlist instantly, like if I'm ever feeling a little homesick, I also got Chopper on there. He has a song called Louisiana that I love. I play that all the time when I'm feeling homesick. Remember what those sounds are. Remember those sensory triggers that I was telling you about. When I put on that Louisiana Boss playlist, it instantly transports me back to Louisiana. And being far away from home, I have to rely on those things. I have to rely on cooking the meals that I grew up eating. I have to rely on the music because I've been living away from home for a long time now. And I know that being at home is not really a place that I desire to be full time right now. But I also recognize the fact that sometimes I need a little bit of home. It's still my roots. You know what I mean? And I guess this just popped into my head. So if it don't land for you, it's okay. But something that just popped into my head, my roots, my deep, deep roots, think of a tree. My deep, deep roots are in Louisiana. Now, trees can take in water from the topsoil, right? They can take in water from the topsoil because their roots, when they're under the ground, they can branch off, right? And they can get water from the topsoil that seeps down. But the deepest roots of the tree only drink from the groundwater. Those are the deposits of water that are deep, deep, deep inside the ground. For me, my groundwater is Louisiana and Louisiana culture. And I know when I need a thorough replenishing, I need to drink from that groundwater, which I can only get in Louisiana, right? So that's how I view this. I am growing into another place in LA, but my roots are deeply rooted in Louisiana. And since I cannot always go back to that place, like I can't be in Louisiana in 2 hours, you know, I have to feed myself with the parts of Louisiana that I can bring about. That, I don't know if that made sense. Let me know if y'all then connected the dots on that. But what I'm saying is I have to bring Louisiana to me as much as I can because I can't physically be there. And the best way to do that is through all of your sensory triggers. Again, smells from home, sounds from home, foods from home. Those things can always transport you back to your roots. I didn't realize how much I needed to go home until I got there. And sometimes that happens. Life gets loud, we get busy, and we forget what peace feels like until we touch it again. So as we come up on the holiday season, if you are away from home and home is nice to you during this time, I want to challenge you to try to make it there to see your family and recharge. When I slowed down, when I let myself just be, and when I sat in the familiarity of people and places that have known me longer than my goals and my grind, something in me relaxed. My spirit settled. My nervous system exhaled. And it made me think about something that Mark Manson talks about in this self-help book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F. I read that book a few years ago now, but this has always stuck with me. It was about how we keep adding more responsibilities and more pressure and more expectations, not because we want them, but because society tells us that we should, that more is what makes us worthy, that busyness is success, that constant striving means that you're doing life right. But being home reminded me sometimes the most courageous thing that you can do is stop. Stop adding and start releasing. Stop performing. Stop proving and just breathe. And it took me hitting a brick wall in the summertime to say, oh yeah, I need to spend a little bit of time away from LA. I need to go home. I need to reconnect with things that really matter. I need to ground myself. It took me hitting a brick wall to realize that I needed to stop. right? And if you don't want to look at it as stopping because maybe you associate that with like giving up or whatever the case, look at it as a pause. Maybe it's not stopping for you. Maybe it is a pause. For me, it was a stop. It was, Tyra, get off of this busy town train, stop in Louisiana for a month and collect yourself, right? Being home reminded me that growth doesn't always look like hustling and collecting achievements like they are some infinity stones, okay? Sometimes the growth looks like resting. Sometimes it looks like remembering where you came from, remembering the things that are most important to you, remembering that life isn't about materialistic things. Sometimes it looks like returning, not to stay forever, but to refill. So this week, I hope you find a little bit of that feeling. Maybe it's a conversation, a memory, a recipe, a song, a walk in your old neighborhood, whatever home looks like for you right now. Let it ground you. Let it relax your shoulders. Let it remind you that you don't have to carry every expectation the world hands you. You're allowed to put some things down. And with that being said, y'all, that's all I got for you today. I really hope this hit home for you in some way. And I hope you take this as a time to stop, as a time to pause, as a time to recharge, as a time to refill, especially as we come up on the end of the year. This is a season where a lot of us are starting to slow down. Work starts to slow down. People are starting to prioritize time with family and community. I hope you take that time and you take advantage of that if you can. Now, with that being said, I'm going to let y'all get up out of here because y'all already know Pep Talk's supposed to be short and mine are always pretty lengthy. But I love y'all. And if you need to stop, pause, whatever, do it. Go home. Let your mom and them love on you. Eat some food that you ate growing up. Take that time to really reconnect with your roots and don't lose touch of who you were and who you are now. Don't lose touch of that because it's very important. My foundation was built in St. Francisville, Louisiana, and I'm still that little Southern country girl. And for me, that fills me with so much pride to know that I am from a super small town, and it reminds me of the things that are super important to me at my core. Those things look like community, family, love, right? Slowing down, living at a slower pace. Those things are super important to me and I hold them very closely to my heart. So I'm gonna let y'all go ahead and get up out of here. If you are watching on the YouTube channel, make sure you give this video a like if you liked it and leave us a comment. Chat it up down there, okay? And also hit that big red subscribe button if you're not already subscribed and turn your notifications on so you can get all the alerts anytime we post any new videos. And if you're listening on your favorite listening platform, thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you rate the podcast and leave us a review. The reviews are so important. And I will see you guys again in the next episode. This is Affirmations for Black Girls.
Few things are as powerful